We are going to look at the main topics and subtopics that will be assessed in your question paper at the end of the year. We are going to speak about a possible, and I just want to reiterate the word possible because there might be some changes. We haven't had the final detail yet on the end of year control test that you guys are going to write. We know some of it, and I will share that with you shortly. Then we are going to look at the content that was removed from the exam guidelines. So you guys can see you should all have a copy of the exam guideline. And I also want to say this to you guys, your exam guideline is incredibly important. You need to have it next to you when you study so you can use it as a tick list to show yourself what you have covered already and what you know very well. So guys, your exam guideline is incredibly important. There was a lot of content that was removed, and it's not removed from the textbook, and it's not removed from the core content notes. So you guys need to make sure that you study those things that are important. Okay, so I'll show you what are the things that were left out. Then we are going to look at the action verbs and guide you on how to answer those questions and all the different action verbs. We're going to go through answering section A questions, give you a couple of tips and pointers. We are going to look at section B questions and then also section C. And this is about tips and pointers, guys. This is not about the content that we are going to cover today. Right. Guys, the first thing that we are going to look at is the topics and the main and the subtopics. We've got in business studies 4 main topics, which is business environments, business ventures, business roles, and then of course business operations. So guys, under those main topics, we have certain subtopics. Like you guys can read there, influences on and the control factors relating to the business environments, challenges of the business environments, adapting to challenges, impact of those challenges, and then of course also the business sectors. Business ventures, anything that's got to do with forms of ownerships, or those things like franchises and all of that. That is the avenues of acquiring a business, transforming a business plan into an action plan, starting a business venture based on that action plan. Guys, this is all those things that's got to do with Gantt charts and work breakdown structures. So that you also need to know. Then of course the easy section, assessment of entrepreneurial qualities, and then of course presentation of business information. Right, we then have business roles, which is creative thinking and problem solving, stress and crisis management, professionalism and ethics, citizenship, roles and responsibilities, and team dynamic theories, which is the last one that you've done. And then business operations, that's everything that's got to do with the business functions. We are doing 3 specific topics there: the marketing function, production function, and the introduction to the human resource function. Right. Okay. Now guys, this next section is really important. I want you to take your exam guideline and go through it and delete those things from your core content notes that is not necessary to study. Otherwise, you guys might end up studying way too much, and that will affect your result at the end of the year. So make sure that these things that are removed, that is removed from your core content notes as well. Right, the topics that were removed in terms of forms of ownership, characteristics of different forms of ownership, advantages, disadvantages of the different forms of ownership. It was covered in grade 10 and it is omitted in grade 11. Right, we've got stress and crisis management, the part of the theories of change management. Now guys, that's a huge section that was removed. That's the Belbin role, McGarrison-McCain, MTRI, Jungian theory. All of those theories of change management has actually been removed, so you guys don't need to study that. It's a huge section that was cut. Then of course team dynamics and conflict management, all the team dynamic theories, that was the huge one that was removed. Conflict management theories has also been removed, and then of course the functions of the workplace forum has been removed as well. Right, we carry on citizenship, roles and responsibilities. The entire topic there has been removed. Okay, and then in the marketing function, also huge cuts. Marketing in the formal and informal sector, you don't need to worry about. Use of technology for marketing, import, exports, those things have been removed. And then foreign marketing and the production function has been removed under the marketing function topic. And then, of course, the production function, all of those production systems, which is mass production and jobbing and all of those things, you don't need to know anything about that, not the advantages and disadvantages, none of that. It's a pity, actually, that they did that. But unfortunately, you guys don't need to know that, or fortunately, should I say. The workplace safety policy, you guys don't need to know. And also nothing in terms of production cost, which is maybe a plus for you because then it removes all the mathematics from business studies. So guys,
if I could just add something there, grade 11s, just bear in mind that it's possible that you may have gone through some of those sections in class, but what we're stating here is that they're not examinable. So your teacher might have gone through the mass production, batch production, and job production, but it's not examinable at the end of the year. So just bear that in mind.
There we go. Right. Now, guys, I'm now getting to the possible format. Now, remember, I said possible. It might be that there might be changes coming your way, but this is the instruction that we have received as it stands right at the moment. There's going to be one question paper. It was originally planned that you guys would write a proper full-scale exam, which would have been 2 papers. Now, all of that is going to be summarized in one paper. That paper is going to be 150 marks, and you're going to get 2 hours to do it in. Okay, so that's the possible structure, and I'm going to show you how that structure might look like. Okay, you're going to have a section A, which is your multiple choice questions. That's going to be for 30 marks, and it's multiple choice, choose the correct term, match the columns, all of those things. And that's going to be on the entire year's work. There's nothing that's going to be separated there. So you guys need to make sure that you know everything, more or less, so that you can answer your section A questions quite well. Then we're going to have a section B question, and in the section B question, you are going to get 3 questions, question 2, 3, and 4, of which you need to choose any 2. Question 2 is going to be on business environments and business operations, and that question is going to be out of 40 marks. Question 3, of course, is the other 2 main topics, business roles and business ventures, and then question 4 is miscellaneous on all 4 topics. Now, maybe that's a point of discussion, maybe later if you want, if you don't have enough time to study, how you can almost cheat, but we'll get to that. And then, of course, guys, we have section C, of which question 5 is going to be on business environments or business operations, or a combination of the 2, and you're going to have question 6, which is business roles or business ventures, or a combination of the 2. Now, guys, in section C, you have to choose one of the 2 questions to do, not both of them. Make sure that you follow the instructions quite well, because otherwise you're going to run out of time, and we are only going to mark the first one offered. So make sure that you read the instructions properly. Right. So guys, the next thing that we are going to do is quickly speak about mark allocations. Now guys, I'm going to give you some examples of these different mark allocations and how it's marked in a question paper, and that you know how to structure your answer accordingly. Right, the first one is going to be where there's 1 mark allocated. Now guys, you need to look at this in conjunction with the action verb and of course the mark allocation. So don't assume if you've got something that says identify that it will always be 1 mark. It's not necessarily the case. You need to be guided by the mark allocation. Right, but if you see these verbs, most of them are lower order questions and requires only 1 mark, no explanation required. It is just recall from memory. And if you see give, identify, list, mention, name, or state, any of those are lower order questions, no real explanation, just remember the fact, and it's 1 mark each. And look at the mark allocation. We'll speak about that a bit later. Right. When you see these verbs, this is typically the stuff that you will find in middle order questions. Classify, name, suggest, advise, propose, define, outline, recommend, motivate, state. All of these things might be worth 2 marks. I'm saying might be because there could be that you need to motivate by quoting from the scenario, and in most cases that is only worth 1 mark. But you will see how the mark allocation works for that. So you must make sure that you look at the mark allocation as well. Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, just for example, there's an action verb name. You might have noticed that that would have possibly been in the previous slide as well, but there specifically you would need to look at the mark allocation in order to identify what sort of answer you're going to be providing there. It could be a 1 mark answer, it could be a 2 mark answer. Just look at the mark allocation.
Mr. Edwards, I know this is going to become a bit more technical, but when you see name for a 2 mark answer, that means it's a basic application question. It's not just recalling from memory. I need to apply it to a case study, or I need to do something where my knowledge is integrated into something else, and that means it's 2 marks. It's worth more because the difficulty level is so much higher.
So it may go from a lower order to a middle
order question. Absolutely right. But guys, if you see any of these are worth 2 marks, and those 2 marks are allocated at the end of the statement or the end of your sentence. Now guys, we will do the next one, which is a lot more difficult for you guys to do eventually. So you need to pay closer attention to the next verbs. Now guys, in these verbs, you will get a split mark. Now that's very difficult to understand even for a marker. But when you structure an answer, it is imperative that you understand what we mean by split marking, having a statement and qualifying that statement with an explanation. So guys, this is very, very important. The moment that you see these words or these verbs, describe, explain, distinguish, discuss, analyze, elaborate, showing the impact, applying a technique, evaluate, differentiation, comparing or tabulation, it will always be a split mark question. Now guys, you need to really know how this works, and we will give you some pointers to see when is something a statement and when is it a qualifier. Okay, so make sure that you understand that, because I've seen at the end of the year when I mark grade 12 papers, you can see the learner actually has studied, but they lose almost half the marks because there's no qualifiers, not a well-structured answer. Right. Okay, now guys, we are going to start our explanation or tips or pointers of how to write an exam question or question paper by starting with section A. Now guys, you all know that in section A you get different kinds of questions. You've got multiple choice, you've got fill in the missing words where you need to find from the list of words the correct ones, and you will know match the columns quite well, because I think you guys have done this through grade 11 and 10 in every test that you've written. So I'll give you a bit of pointers, because the thing, Mr. Edwards, I don't know if you've picked this up, but I oftentimes see that learners leave stuff out in section A. Guys, never, ever, ever leave anything out in section A. If you don't know the answer, you guess.
Particularly if you've got the multiple choice, you've at least got 1 in 4 chance of it being correct. So it makes no sense to leave out a question.
I had one learner once when I confronted him and said, "But why are you leaving stuff out in section A?" And he says to me, "But it's disingenuous to offer an answer that you don't know. If you don't know, you should actually be honest and say you don't know." I said, no, this is not it. This is not about honesty or anything. This is about writing a paper to get the most amount of marks. Right. Okay, so guys, let's quickly go through this. In terms of pointers, make sure you answer all the questions in section A. There's going to be a 1.1, 1.2, and a 1.3. There is no choice question in section A. You need to answer all the questions. And as I say, don't leave any answer blank. Guess if you have to. Right. You need to number your answers clearly and correctly. Guys, the marker looks at a specific, how can I say, a format. So if I know the answer for the first 5 was A, B, D, D, A, then guys, I'm going to go quickly and I'm going to mark A, B, D, D, A. If you have messed up the numbering, then he will miss those marks as well. So answer or make sure that your numbering is absolutely correct. If you mess up the sequence, then it will be wrong in the following questions as well. So it's very imperative that you number correctly in section A. Right. Only write the letter or the word down, no sentences. Now guys, it says the letter or the word. The word is, of course, when you have to fill in a missing word. If you do multiple choice, I'm only looking for A, B, C, or D. You don't write the word in there because it makes it difficult for the marker, because then they need to go back to the question paper and go and find which one is where. You write down the number and that, or the letter only. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, now guys, we have said this over and over again, so you guys can imagine how important this is for us. If you don't know the answer, guess. Never leave a blank space in section A. Only write down one answer for each question. Now guys, this is very important to understand. If the answer is A, and you weren't certain, you said it could be A or B, and you write both of them down, it's not that they're going to mark the first one. They mark it wrong because there's only one correct answer. If you offer 2 answers, even if the first one is correct, or one of them was correct, it will be marked wrong. So please remember, you cannot offer more than one answer. There's only one answer. Right. And do not write in the left and right hand margins. Guys, these are for the markers. And you can see in this question paper here, we write the marks down in the left hand margin, the totals. And for each question, we write the marks down in the right hand margin. So guys, please don't use that space. That space is for the marker. Right.
Mr. Van Zyl?
Yes.
One thing I just want to add is you mentioned earlier you don't want to make it difficult for the marker.
No.
Up until now, for next year when you're in grade 12 and you've got an outside marker that's marking your paper, you want to be making sure that you're making their job as easy as possible. So get into the habit now. At the end of grade 11, you make sure that your layout is correct, your structure, it's neat, tidy, so that by grade 12, the end of year papers, you know exactly what's expected of you and you are making it easier for that outside marker. The teachers that are marking your papers now, they know how you answer your questions, and they may be lenient here and there, but they're not going to be lenient at the end of next year. So just keep that in mind.
And guys, also, at the end of the year, grade 12, you are only a number. There's not even a name on your paper. It's only a number. Nobody argues. You cannot go to them and say, I argue this specific point. This is what I meant. We are instructed at the end of the year to know that we are not writing a paper for the learner. We need to mark what is on the paper and we need to link it to a memo. If it's not there, it's not there. There's no argument. You don't have that ability. So guys, all of these little small things, by numbering correctly, writing legibly, that makes it important for the marker at the end of the year. You can imagine there we are sitting with 23,600 papers that needs to be marked between 250 markers in a 10 or 12 day period. Now guys, if he gets your paper on day 8, you can imagine the person is tired. He has seen a lot of them. He makes mistakes because you've made mistakes. And it doesn't matter, because only 10% of the papers get moderated. With other words, somebody else looks at it to make sure that it's marked correctly. If yours were the one that slipped through the cracks, then guys, your mark is going to be reflecting that. Okay, so make sure that you give yourself any available chance to get the maximum marks. Good point, Mr. Edwards. Right. Now guys, we are going to show you a couple of tricks when it comes to multiple choice. The first one, try to work out the answer without looking at the possibilities. So you already know the answer. So if your answer that you've got in your head is validated in one of the options, then you have a very good chance of that being correct. Okay, read through the statement and all the options quite well, guys. Do not just choose one because it looks right. The whole thing with multiple choice is to read and think analytically. Okay, you need to break down that statement into smaller pieces to know exactly what you are answering. And I've got some examples for you just after this. Right, underline the keywords in the statement. This is part of the analysis of what the question requires. Cross out the options that are definitely wrong. Guys, there are always options that are not right, and that you can dismiss them outright, and you cross them out, so you know it makes your choice between 4 questions now maybe a choice between 2, so that makes it a lot easier. Right, read through the statement again and select the most appropriate answer from the options remaining. Write down your answer and move to the next question. Right, guys, I know the next sentence says go back to the question you were not sure of at the end of the paper. Only the ones that you're not sure of. If you ventured or if you put down an answer, it is my experience. Most people go back and change the answer from correct to wrong. Okay, your first gut feel is normally the right one. Trust it. Once you're done, move on. Don't ever go back to multiple choice. It's just my observation.
I'll emphasize that. I was actually going to mention that as well. More often than not, if there's a learner has crossed out an answer and put something new, the old answer would have been correct, and the new one is incorrect.
Because then they overthink it. That's the problem. Don't overthink it. Analyze it and get to the right answer, but don't overthink it. And then, of course, guys, once again, do not leave any answer blank. Right. Now, guys, I've got some example question for you. Tido manufacturers operate in the business sector as they specialize in the production of winter jackets. The what business sector? As they specialize in the production of winter jackets. Now, guys, the first thing is we are going to underline the operating word that is most important. You see, I'm analyzing the statement and I'm underlining the word production, if you guys can see there. Now, guys, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate any of or the ones that are definitely wrong. We know that they are not farming, so it can't be primary. They're not fishing, so I know at least that it's not primary. I know we are not working with formal and informal sectors in grade 11, so I can cross that one out. That's definitely wrong. So now it leaves me with the choice between secondary and tertiary. And now I'm going back to the word that I've underlined, and it says production. I'm changing raw materials into usable products, but I'm not selling it to the end user. So therefore I know it is the secondary sector. Right, so guys, you can now see how we need to analyze the question well before we actually answer it. Don't just go with the first one that you see. Read it through again, look at all the options and determine the best way forward from there.
And also note that it didn't take more than a minute to do that.
No,
you analyzed it, you crossed out any wrong answers, and if you're spending a minute on a multiple choice question, you're doing okay.
Right. Mr. Edwards, I also want to maybe emphasize the point. I don't know, out of my experience, if it doesn't go well in section A, then it doesn't boast well for the rest of the question paper. Then I can see that the learner doesn't know. Multiple choice is never meant to be difficult. This is the place where you need to make up marks. So guys, make sure you give yourself the best chance by reading properly. Don't rush through this, because this is meant to boost your marks. It's 30 marks out of 150. It's quite a big chunk of the marks of the total question paper. And throwing away unnecessary marks here, because remember, each one of these count 2 marks. So each mistake that I make is -2, -2, -2. So guys, make sure that you do this properly and spend the right amount of time on doing this and making sure you get the maximum amount of marks here. Right. Now guys, the next kind of question that you will get in section A is choose the correct concept. Now guys, you can even, the same kind of tips remain for this or matching column B with column A. It's basically the same kind of concept. So I'm not going to do match the columns because the same tips apply there. Right, so let's quickly go through your tips. Okay, read through the 5 statements and all the options. Now guys, remember it's 10 marks, so this one will definitely have 5 questions in. You need to read through all 5 of them and then look at the 10 options. There will always be 10 options in a block at the top which you need to choose from. Now the same thing, we underline the key words in the statement. Now guys, I'm going to show you a method of really working through this in an analytical way. We look at the 10 concepts that is in the block above, looking for matching concepts or concepts related to similar content. Now I'll show you in what I mean by that when we do the example question. And then we, of course, match the related concepts with one another. So guys, there is a example question. It says, you can see at the top there is 10 different concepts: force field analysis, memorandum of incorporations, rights approach, dismissal, partnership, private company, notice of incorporation, retrenchment, nominal group, and common good approach. Now guys, those different words there doesn't have anything to do with one another necessarily. So now we need to group them together into similar topics. Now I'll show you what we're going to do. Now guys, the first thing, we are going to underline the key concept. Let's do the first one first. I've underlined there the governing documents. So now we know we have to do with forms of ownership and of course the setting up of a company. That is where you get governing documents from. So now I'm looking at my 10 concepts and I'm identifying 2 things there that has got to do with governing documents, and I have identified there, it's the memorandum of incorporation or the notice of incorporation. So I know I need to choose between one of those 2 things. I don't need to choose between those 2 things and 10 others. So it's only those 2. Now the next one that I'm going to do is I'm going to further analyze the statement. And I say there, they're specifically referring to the duties and the responsibilities of shareholders. I've now underlined that. So now I can get to the right answer, and I know definitely this is the memorandum of incorporation, and that's the one that I'm going to choose. Now the next one is the same. What consists of 2 or more members. The moment that we speak about members, then we know we are dealing with forms of ownership. So now we are going to identify the 2 forms of ownership there, a partnership and a private company. Now guys, those 2 or more members, I know that a company has shareholders, not members, so now it's easy for me to choose that it is a partnership. Right, then the next one, I cannot now read there. Limited terminated Michael's employment contract due to new technology. This is an example of, and now we highlight the sentence that is very important for me to answer. Terminated Michael's employment contract. Now guys, there's specific reasons for termination of an employment contract. So now I go to employment contracts and I can immediately identify 2 things: the dismissals or retrenchment. Now I'm going to highlight the next part of the sentence that is important. This is due to new technology, not because the person was incompetent, it's just because the structure changed and they no longer need this person's physical labor. So now I know it cannot be dismissal, it is retrenchment, because dismissal means the person has done something wrong. Right, then the next one, the management of Tracy manufacturers used a what problem-solving technique when they considered changing the structure of the business. Now guys, if I set up a question paper, I will never ask you a question like that, because I think it's kind of unfair, because both of them actually work there. But now we know that we have got to do with problem-solving techniques, and there are only 2 problem-solving techniques from the list above, and we have seen that it is force field analysis and nominal group technique. Now we just need to match the correct one. So I know that this is about changing the structure of the business, and that means it is a force field analysis. Right, the next one, the traders follows the what theory as a guide on how to treat their employees with dignity and respect. So I know this is about theories, and there's only two theories there, the rights approach and the common good approach, and I just happen to know the dignity and respect one refers to rights approach. Okay, there you go, guys. You can see that you need to read analytically. There's two parts to a statement. You underline the keywords and you think through it through a process. Don't just go with your gut feel necessarily, because you might end up losing marks that you know at the end when the teacher goes through the paper with you. I cannot believe I've done that. Guys, it's because you don't read properly. You need to read the question paper properly.
And if I can just add there, you'll see how Mr. Van Zyl has identified two possible answers. Most of the time, this type of question is structured in such a way that you've got maybe two opposing options, and you've got to know through your reasoning ability and what you've learnt which option to go for. So just for the first one, memorandum of incorporation and notice of incorporation, you need to be able to identify the difference between the two,
yes,
so that you can decipher what is the correct answer.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Now, guys, the next section, of course, is section B, and I'm going to hand you over to my esteemed colleague here that knows section B questions quite well. Mr. Edwards, I don't know if you want to sit at the computer and we can just quickly
all
do
good.
it.
I think it's okay. So yes, we're going to move on to section B questions, and if we refer to the structure that we spoke about earlier, this is a 40-mark question that you would have to do 2 questions out of the 3, so totaling section B 80 marks that will go to you. The main thing here that we need to look at is the action verb. So let's have a look at that. We'll look at that in a little bit more depth in a moment or two. So yes, section B will consist of 3 questions. You have to choose 2, and that applies even when we're doing paper 1 and 2. That will normally be the case. All right, look at the action verb. We spoke about list and discuss. The mark allocation is also very important in this instance, so that you know how to structure your answer and how much information you need to provide. Look out for questions that have a specified number of facts required. We'll look at a specific question in a moment, because you should not be providing more answers than what has been asked for. Use bullet points to separate the facts of your answer. So if it's a specific type of question like list or discuss, let's say discuss, all right, 1 bullet should be equal to 2 marks. All right, and we'll look at an example in a moment. Quotes have to be directly from the scenario. So you copy the entire sentence verbatim. All right, so verbatim meaning exactly as is in the text. All right, so you take it straight from the scenario and you write down the exact sentence as it is in that text. Draw tables when the questions require you to differentiate or compare. Okay, so that's always a nice way to do a comparison, is in a table format. So we might ask you in a form tabulate, but often if it's differentiate or distinguish, the acceptable answer is to actually place it in a table. The last
Mr. Edwards, I just want to say you don't have to, but once again, the point that we made earlier, you want to make it as easy as possible for the marker to spot the marks. So if you put it in a table form, it's the easiest thing to actually mark. So you're writing that paper for the marker, not even for the examiner or for yourself, it's for the marker. So to tabulate or to whenever you need to compare or when you have to differentiate anything that's got to do with comparing 2 things to one another, put it in a table. It's the easiest thing to mark.
All right.
You don't have to, but it's a tip.
For sure. We've got a perfect example of that a little bit later. So you'll see how the tabulate or the answer in tabulation form is shown. Okay, last but not least, all answers have to be in full sentences unless required to list, give, or name. Again, use the mark allocation there. If it's 5 things that you need to provide and it's 5 marks, then you know it might just require a simple, quick answer. But generally, if it's for 2 marks per bullet, then it needs to be in full sentences. Right, so let's have a look at the first example that we've got there. The question says, give 5 examples of contemporary legislation that may affect the business operations. Now, just a disclaimer there, these questions that are provided may not be part of your content, okay? It's the concept of the question that we are focusing on here, the mark allocation and the action verb there. All right, so let's have a look at how we would answer this and how us as markers would be marking this. All right, so the answers that you would provide, Employment Equity Act, BBE, BCEA, Skills Development Act, COIDA. All right, so those are 5 options. Note how we have now crossed out the last 3 because you have provided us with 5 answers.
And it's not because they're wrong. Yeah, you crossed it out because the question specified.
Correct.
5.
Yeah, so we as markers are only going to mark until the 5th possible option. And even if one of your answers in the first 5 are, one of them is incorrect, but maybe your 6th answer or 7th answer is correct, it doesn't matter. We will cross the last 3 out, okay, leaving the 5 options for us to mark. Okay, so keep that in mind. The markers are strict on this. Okay, the next one that we'll look at is discuss 2 factors that will influence your choice of funding. Now, most importantly, please look at the mark allocation. They've stated that we're looking for 2 factors, okay, but the mark allocation is 6. Okay, so that should tell you straight away that when you're identifying a factor, the marker will be providing you 2 marks for that identification. So looking at that answer there, you've got the one option is the nature of finance, the other one is the amount of capital needed, and you have been provided 2 marks per identification there, and then an additional mark for one of the explanations. For example, nature of finance, you have 2 possible explanations that you can provide there. Long-term finance will be repaid over a longer period, or you can go for the second one, the day-to-day operations of our business. Then we would finance this using the short-term source of finance. Again, looking at the verb and the mark allocation for that question. Right, we're going to move on to a scenario type question. So we've got a scenario which I'll read now. It says, Vashni fashion designers employ fashion designers who are always late for work. Despite several warnings, the government has increased import tariffs, making it difficult for VFD to continue importing designer clothing from China. VFD purchase their raw materials from Dilebogo clothing manufacturers, and that are always out of stock. So you can identify that there's a few things, a few challenges in that scenario that we're going to need to look at. Okay, as you're going through that, you should be starting to identify some of those. Some alarm bells should be going off. So let's have a look at the questions that come with this scenario. And this is a very, very popular type of questioning for this type of scenario. Looking at the first one, quote 3 challenges faced by VFD from the scenario above. Note that it says 3 mark allocation there. Okay, and as we said earlier, quote means that you need to give us the entire sentence verbatim as it is in the scenario.
May not use your own words, because we see that sometimes it's the right part of the sentence, but they put it in their own verbs, their own words, and then of course as a marker you are instructed that you may not award those marks. It may not be in your own words.
Exactly.
It's just important to note. Doesn't have to be in quotation marks though.
For sure.
But it must be as it is from the case study.
If it is in your own words, then it's actually not quoting the concepts there. So that's why we are strict on the fact that it needs to be in the words that are in the scenario as is. All right, the second question looks at classify each challenge according to the 3 business environments. Okay, that's 6 marks. And then lastly, state the extent of control VFD has in each of the business environments identified above. Now, this question often has a table that is expected or provided to you as a template when answering this question. So let's have a look at how this answer is often provided. So on the left-hand side, you'll have your challenge, and as we said earlier, that is verbatim as it is in the scenario, 1 mark each. With that, you've got the environment. Okay, if I can just ask, we go back to the previous slide there, it states classify, and note the mark allocation there. Classify each challenge. You've got 3 challenges, so logic would tell you that you're getting 2 marks per classification. Right, so let's have a look as to what answers are provided there. This makes it a middle order question because you're getting 2 marks for the identifying which environment it is. It requires a little bit of analysis, a little bit of knowledge as to what the micro environment is, for example, or macro environment or market environment. So you're requiring to reason and identify what environment that falls into. Okay, and with that, you should know micro is full control, so that's where the control aspect comes in, and you'll be getting your 1 mark per section there. So very, very useful section here, because if you count that up, you're looking at 12 marks.
It's 12 marks.
So, and for sure, you can expect this type of question in the next couple of exams or control tests that you write. It is a very popular question.
Okay, must I move on, Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Yeah. Then the next one, explain the purpose of induction. Again, looking at the action verb and the mark allocation. This is where you're going to have to look at the answers that you provide, and you're going to need to be providing us with a statement and a qualifier. And we'll show you how that works in a moment. This most certainly needs to be in full sentences. So the question, explain the purpose of induction. The answer that we're going to be looking at is the statement, introduce new employees to management colleagues. That we will give you the 1 mark. Okay, now we start to ask the questions, why do we do that? How do we do that? When do we do that? Okay, for the qualifier aspect of your answer. So here you would be looking at, why do we do that? Why do we introduce new employees to management and colleagues? In order to establish relationships with fellow colleagues at different levels. So that's why you would introduce new employees to management and colleagues. Let's have a look at the second bullet, because that also emphasizes this need to validate or qualify the statement. The statement part of the answer, make new employees feel welcome, 1 mark. Okay, how do we do this? By introducing them to their physical workspace. Okay, so that's a nice example of your statement and qualifier. Let's have a look at the next one. Give new employees a tour. Okay, how do we do this? We're going to look at the layout of the building and the office so that they know what that looks like. Okay, so keep that in mind, ladies and gents. When you look at a question like explain, describe, discuss, it's split marking. You need a statement and a qualifier, and you can also identify that from the mark allocation. Right, now we're looking at a different type of question. This is more your higher order question, where we ask you to advise. Okay, remember, advise, suggest, recommend. Those are the types of questions that you'll see where the marker will allocate the 2 marks at the end of the bullet. So this question says, advise the human resource manager of the implications of the Employment Equity Act when making new appointments. Now note the mark allocation says 8 there. All right, so that logic should tell you by now that you should be giving us 4 bullets. Okay, 4 bullets of information. So, first one, it says the human resources manager must promote or provide equal opportunities in the workplace. 2 marks at the end. Okay, ensure that the affirmative action promotes diversity in the workplace. 2 marks at the end over there. Okay, sometimes this section of work will require you to look at some of your knowledge, okay, using your own opinion at times, but as markers we are required to link that to a memo. Okay, so make sure that you are able to provide this with some facts when answering this type of question.
Mr. Edwards, I just also want to just weigh in here. When you get advice, and the other one is of course outline, which is a lower order question. Outline, advise, and so forth has the 2 marks at the end, as Mr. Edwards explained. But guys, here we don't need a statement and a qualifier. What we now need is just the essence of the sentence. It must still be a full sentence or something that can be regarded as a full sentence, but the essence must be there. Like if you look at the first bullet point there, the human resource manager must promote or provide equal opportunities in the workplace. If this was an explained question, it would have been a split mark, and it says the human resource manager must promote what? Equal opportunities in the workplace, 2nd mark. But now, if you only said the human resource manager must promote equal opportunities, and you stopped it right there, that is enough for 2 marks. Okay, there's another one there. Ensure that affirmative action promotes diversity in the workplace. If you said promote diversity in the workplace, only that would have been enough for 2 marks. I just wanted to stipulate that, because sometimes people go in so much detail to try and figure out when that they have enough. But for this, the essence of the sentence is enough.
And I think also something to look at there is the mark allocation, how important that is, because we also see some people, instead of looking at the mark allocation and giving us 4 options, they'll give us 6 or 7 options, and that is taking up time that sometimes you don't necessarily have.
And you know when that happens, Mr. Edwards, I don't know if you've seen it, when people start writing in paragraphs and they don't space. This is not English or something like that we are teaching here. This is business studies. It's a completely different subject. In English, you will not write in bullet point form, or in history. But in this case, we're not making an argument. What you need to do is write in bullet point form like this. Then you know exactly how much answers you have already given, and then you will not run out of time. So don't write in a paragraph form. If you write in bullet point forms, it structures your answer also a lot better.
And also with the paragraphs, it requires the marker, and again reiterating that you want to make it easier for the marker, it requires the marker to identify where those points are in that paragraph, whereas if you present it to them with 4 bullets for 8 marks, then they know exactly what your arguments are and where to allocate the marks.
Right. Now, guys, I think this is the end of... oh, no, we've got one more, Mr. Edwards. We've got still a distinguish left to go.
Okay, so we're looking at distinguish or differentiate or tabulate the differences between ethics and professionalism. And here you would look at the mark allocation. So as you can see with the answer that's provided there, it's split marking, but if we have given you this question for 4 marks, then it is only requiring you to give 1 difference, okay, between ethics and professionalism. If this was for 8 marks, then you would give something like what is provided to you there, where you would get 2 marks for a statement on ethics, 2 marks for professionalism, and then you would have to provide 2 sets of differences there. So just keep that in mind. Mark allocation, again, very important.
Right. Mr. Edwards, I'm pretty sure we are done with section B. So, guys, we only have about 4 minutes left to go. So I'm going to go through the section C questions quite quickly. So let's just have a look at what we've got. Now, guys, when we write an essay in business studies, and Mr. Edwards will probably agree with me, there's a couple of technical things here that people get wrong, and because they get it wrong, they lose out on unnecessary marks. An essay in business studies has the following. It has an introduction, and that word introduction must be there. If it is not there, you're going to lose out on a given mark, which is mahala. So please do not leave out the word introduction. Then it has a body with headings and subheadings. This is the question itself, guys, and we will go into the details hopefully a bit later. And then, of course, there must be a conclusion. And once again, that word conclusion must be there. I need to be able to identify that this is a conclusion. Right. So, guys, in terms of the introduction, in terms of the format, you need to write an opening statement that links to the instructions of the essay question. The instructions say you need to write an essay about this, and you will normally see 4 bullet points there. Now, guys, if your introduction links to any of those 4 things, then that's good enough for a mark. And I need 2 facts for an introduction. Right. We need to write in bullet point form, guys. I cannot strengthen this enough. Do not repeat information from the leading statement. Now, guys, we see this quite often. I cannot think of an opening statement, or I cannot think of an introduction, and the easiest thing to do is just to copy it from that scenario that you get as part of the question. The moment that you do that, we are going to put an R in a circle around it, which means repeat. So you cannot get the marks for that if you do that. Right. The next one, don't waste time figuring out an introduction. You'd rather leave it blank and come back to it later. You will see in your information booklet, or that telematics booklet that you guys received, that there's a lot of possible introductions in there for you for all the various topics. So make sure you get your hands on one of those so that you can study those introductions. That should be good enough for marks for you. Right. Now, guys, this one is quite busy, unfortunately, but all of this has to be said. This is in the body. You need to use the information in the bullet points in the scenario. You'll see the scenario, and then it says write an essay or whatever the question requires you, and then there's 4 things that you need to address, 4 bullet points. Now, guys, none of those bullet points, the first one is not an introduction, and the last one is your conclusion. The moment that you do that, you're going to lose out on A marks, analysis marks. Right, so please, those things are all in the body, everything that's got to do with those bullet points. You break up the information into logical parts, making use of headings and subheadings. Now, guys, a good tip here is to use the actual bullet point, the question, as your heading. And you can use subheadings if that question has got sub-questions next to it. That's your subheadings. So, guys, please make sure that you have headings and subheadings in there. Don't just write one big paragraph. It makes it, once again, easier for the marker. Now, guys, I've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go a bit quicker. The maximum marks obtained for the body is 32 marks. Now, guys, you will see if you look at a memo, an old memo, that there's probably about 46 to 48 possible marks that you can get. You only require 32. So that means you don't have to get full marks for every section. You can get full marks for some of these essay questions by only doing half of the question. So it's not, that's actually a place where you make up marks. It shouldn't be something that stresses you out. Right, guys, then don't repeat facts. Get to the point. Responses must be bulleted and in full sentence, and then put your statements in context. Now, guys, I've got the last one there that says make sure you have 2 recent, and guys, the emphasis is on recent. 2 recent and relevant examples. Now, what is recent? Something out of the news, a newspaper that comes from your grade 11 here, current here, that you can link to a specific statement that you've made in your essay that you want to prove. Okay, now that is it. Now, guys, that's very unfair because very few people actually get the originality marks. So I know this is something that I have a big problem with, but I can tell you that if you do a bit of research, there is something that you can link, but it must come from the news. Right, guys, I think this is all that we've got time for, but I think I can maybe have another minute just to do the conclusion with you guys quickly. The conclusion is one fact for 2 marks that is not repeated from the body or the opening statement or the introduction. You must not answer the last bullet from the question as the conclusion. You start with the word conclusion, it must be there. You briefly summarize the main points. You end your essay with a meaningful fact, and you need to do that once, and that will be good enough for 2 marks. Now guys, that brings me to the end. I actually wanted to do this one. Do you think they might indulge us if we can just quickly go through this?
Give it a try.
Okay. No, unfortunately, we have said that we are out of time. So guys, sorry, but this is the end of it. Mr. Edwards, thank you. I enjoyed my time here thoroughly.
No, it was great.
Thank you very much, guys. Till next time.
All the best.